Pleasure. I always wear a white jacket because the dandruff does the show. See you later. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you welcome, please, Niall Toibin.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much indeed. And since I don't anticipate getting a bigger hand than that for the rest of the night, in conclusion, let me say that you're all very welcome. It's nice to see so many old familiar faces. Well, old faces anyway. This is going to be an evening, despite the start, of moral and educational entertainment. We are going out to better you and make you better people. And for that reason, here beginneth the first lesson. Geography. Ireland, the geographers tell us, is an island. It's 300 miles long and 150 miles thick. And it is inhabited by an admixture of races. You have Celts, Danes, Normans, Saxons, Anglo-Saxons, Huguenots, Palatines, Orangemen, Scotsmen, and a number of subspecies, such as yallabellies, sheep stealers, hern stranglers, stone throwers, cute cork-whores, and main cabin bastards. But easily the most entertaining or the most interesting of these subspecies are the Dublin men, now almost a vanishing race, but still with us in sufficient numbers to man the terraces of Hill 16 in Croke Park, from which advantageous position they throw toilet rolls at the referee. For this reason they are known as the Jacks. Now, the most interesting characteristic of a true Dublin man is his capacity for indignation. A Dublin man would rather be indignant than happy any day of the week. And I'll give you a few examples. Take the man who was cycling home for his lunch one day, and he was passing up Tara Street near the fire brigade station when he saw men running around with hoses and carrying out fire drill. So he got down off at the bike, and he looked on very approvingly at all this carry-on, until somebody pulled the wrong lever, and a jet of water shot out of a hose, hit him in the chest, sent him spinning across the street, and left the bike in smithereens on the other side. So he got up, wiped himself down, looked at the fireman and said, "Jays, you wouldn't do it to me if I was on fire." Another man from Ringsend who had the same sort of disposition worked all his life as a fitter or a plumber, or at least in some job that never necessitated wearing anything but dungarees or dungareens. And coming towards the end of his working life, he won a lot of money in the football pools, and he decided that he would go on a world cruise. But as the date of his departure approached, some of his friends began to worry because he didn't seem to be making any preparations. And one of them came to him and he said, "Listen, isn't it about time you're getting some gear for this trip of yours? I mean, you're always wearing them dungareens. Surely to God you're not going to go around the world in dungareens." So, well, I don't know. I was thinking I might get a suit, but a few weeks I'd be wearing it. It wouldn't be worth me while. I'd only have to take it off when I come back, you know. But it might be no harm if I was to get a new set of dungareens. So he got the new set of dungareens, and on his first evening at sea, he was promenading up and down the first-class deck when he heard the sound of music and dancing coming from the first-class lounge, and he went over to investigate. But as he did, the steward stepped forward and said, "I'm awfully sorry, sir, but this is the first-class lounge." He said, "But I'm a first-class passenger." No, sir, we don't want any trouble, do we? That's it, come along. And he got him by the elbow and he led him below deck. But later on they checked the the list of passengers, and they found he was a first-class passenger, and instructions were given that amends should be made immediately. So the steward came back to him and he said, "Captain's compliments, sir. Captain will be awfully pleased if you would dine with him this evening." So what kind of a ship is this? First of all, you wouldn't let me into the dance. And now you want me to take me meals with the crew. We have had, as you know, a recession in this country. I use the past tense advisedly because it's gone now. To America. And but before it left, it left a trail of havoc all throughout the country. And one place that was hit very badly was Cork, because Ford's closed their factory there. And one man who had been working for them for many years decided he wasn't going to leave without a few souvenirs of his association with the firm. So on his last day at work, he began to help himself to little bits and pieces. From this little workbench into that pocket, and from that toolbox into that pocket, and from that conveyor belt into this pocket, and then down his trousers, and up his gansy, and into his inside pockets, and into the socks. And the result was that at the end of the day, he waddled out of the factory, bulging like the Michelin Man. And two of his mates were walking behind him and said, "Jeez, look at Jory. He's walking very funny, isn't he? He's very rheumatic-y looking. Is he sick?" "Ah, no, he's all right. In fact, I'd safely say no. If you gave him a push, he'd nearly stop." And this recession, as you know, has caused gloom and doom everywhere. One man in the Midlands was so upset that he went to the doctor and, well, to the psychiatrist, really. And the psychiatrist said, yes, the gloom and the doom. He said, "Well, it's not only that, doctor. It's more of a personal matter, really." Like. "And what is it?" "Well," he said, "it's the missus." And he said, "And what about her?" "Well, I tell you this, she treats me like a dog." "I see. Well, get on the couch there, but sure, that's the point. I'm not allowed on the couch." But as I say, this recession hit everywhere, hit Dublin very badly. The corporation found they had no money whatsoever to carry out any sort of improvements on corporation property. And one man kept ringing them up every day. He said, "Listen, when are you going to do something about the cracks in my walls?" He got no joy at all. He'd ring again. "There's cracks in the ceiling now." Still no joy. So finally he rang. He said, "There's cracks in the jacks." And this seemed to interest them more, so they sent somebody out to see him. Not that he was going to do anything, but I mean, got him out of the office for the morning anyway. And he arrived at the house and said, "Are you the man of the corporation? Come in here, let me show you. Look at that ceiling. Look at the cracks in that ceiling. Look at the bleeding map of Ireland it is. And look at the walls. Look, they're powdered in the asunder. It's like dandruff it is. Did you ever see a wall with dandruff? And wait till I show you the bathroom. Come in here to show you the bathroom." And as they passed by the stairs, the inspector heard a sort of a snapping noise. And he turned, and there to his astonishment, under the stairs, he saw a mousetrap with a trout caught in it. So he called the tenant. He said, "Excuse me, what?" "Oh, that, oh yeah. Never mind the dampness. We'll talk about that later. Now..." Another section of the corporation were so strapped for money that they really had to do something desperate to keep up their public image. And they scraped through every account they could find in order to start some sort of a building program. And they managed to raise £3,000 from various accounts. And the only building they could manage for that, naturally, would be a very small one. And the only one they could think of was a public convenience, and a very small one at that. But anyway, they invited tenders for this job, and they only got three applications. And the first man in with his bid was a Dublin builder. And they said, well, what's your bid? Well, he said, I'll tell you the truth now. I want to go on the bother, you know. I want to go on the bother of my arse, like. Applying. I know that is a crude expression, but in view of the nature of the building you have in mind, I think it's an appropriate one. But anyway, I know that you're stuck for the thing, and that's like I'm a Dublin man myself, and I don't want to see you embarrassed or anything like that, so I will do the job for £3,000. Because I know you have only £3,000 anyway. I mean, I got that on the grapevine. I said, well, that's very interesting, very kind of you, but we have to have a breakdown on these figures for our accounts. Oh, yeah. Well, I suppose that be £1,000 for materials, to be £1,000 for labour, and to be £1,000 profit. I think that's a reasonable markup, you know. I mean, you wouldn't get much better than that, you know. I mean, all right like this, we'll let you know. So the second man in was a builder from Cavan. And they said, and what is it? He said, oh, £6,000. I said, 6,000. Yeah, £6,000. And they said, and what is the breakdown in that? Well, there'll be £2,000 profit anyhow for the staff. And you can divide the rest of like 2,000 for labour or material or something like that. Anyway, 6,000, a good round sum. You know, like you wouldn't get the better of that now. And I'd be only able to hold that now to Friday. You know, couldn't hold that because you see, with all the inflation and everything, do you know what I mean? Like, all right, we'll let you know. So the last man in with his bid was a builder from Cork. And they said, and what is your bid? Oh, £9,000. 9. Yeah, £9,000. And what is the breakdown on those figures? Well, there'll be 3,000 for you. 3,000 for me, and we give the job to the Dublin fella. And what I find so refreshing about that story is that people think it's a joke. But anyway, this recession, as I say, has gone on, but we'll leave that for the moment because I want to return to the educational side of our little evening. And we're going to have a short lesson in Irish. Now, don't let this upset you too much if your Irish is rusty, because it's a very brief one. Dineen's Irish-English Dictionary is arguably the funniest book ever written, as a perusal of any definition in it will persuade you very quickly. Take the simple word Gael, spelled G-A-E-L, but pronounced Gael, as in Fine Gael. And Dineen defines Gael as an Irishman, a Highlander, a Catholic, so you can take your choice there. But then he has the adjective Gaelach, which he says means Irish, Irish-speaking, Gaelic, simple, unsophisticated, easygoing, common, native. Now, as against that, Chambers' 20th Century Dictionary defines Irish as characteristic of Ireland, self-contradictory, blundering, bull-making. Cassell's German dictionary gives us der Irländer, a bog-trotter. While modern British scientific thinking defines an Irishman as a complex mechanism for transforming Guinness into urine. Which any Murphy drinker will tell you is a superfluous exercise anyway, but I want to talk now briefly as well on another very educational subject, and that is the subject of sex. Not because of any special knowledge, but rather like the woman that went to confession, because I likes talking about it, Father. And it has been said that among the male Irish, at least, the sexual urge is either sublimated by religion, dissipated in sport, or drowned in drink. And in the case of one very distinguished Irishman, that was the poet Patrick Kavanagh, it was probably a combination of all three, because he was very fond of his jar, he was also quite orthodox in his religious practices, and he was a footballer. Well, he was a goalkeeper in Monaghan. I don't know how that would rate. But anyway, he does describe in his book, Terry Flynn, how the rural bachelors of his youth would drag themselves along to the mission when the Redemptorists hit town with the fire and the brimstone. And they go in there, and they sit there very reluctantly with the cap on the knee and the bald heads shining in the candlelight. Celibate and 60. And as the missioner warmed to his theme and castigated them and reviled them for their impurity and their promiscuity and their general depravity, they would stiffen with pride. So that, as Kavanagh says at the end of the sermon, they left the chapel fit to bull cows. Which we must presume was not the object of the exercise. There's a certain characteristic which has been ascribed to the English by the writer Stephen Potter, which he calls one-upmanship. But we in this country, of course, have been practicing that for donkey's generations, from time immemorial, actually. But we don't use that kind of highfalutin terminology. We simply call it being way ahead here, bye. I want to give you a few examples of that little attribute, starting, needless to say, in Dublin. Hey, Sam. What? Remember that pound I give you that day? Oh, what about it? Well, it's the rare chance I can have it back. No, I'm not finished with it. What do you mean you're not finished with it? You're rotten with money. I seen you putting a wad of notes into your pocket a minute ago. No, that was the children's allowance money. Sure, I have to bring that home. Children's allowance money. Sure, only for me you wouldn't have that either. And you'll find it among soccer followers. Two men coming out of Milltown. Well, they won't be coming out anymore. Well, unfortunately, they won't be going in either. What do you think of the new bloke? He's great. Great head, isn't he? He's great head, isn't he? He's great left leg, too, isn't he? He's great sweeper, isn't he? He bends the ball beautiful, isn't he? He's a bleeding waster. Oh, you're very prejudiced. I guarantee you, in a year's time, 100,000 wouldn't buy him. You're dead right, and I'm one of them. Well, I suppose the classic example of this was the lady in Moore Street who sold oranges in the days before the introduction of decimalization. And she was approached one day by an American visitor, and he said, those are beautiful oranges you got there, ma'am. What? Oh, the oranges, oh, gorgeous, lovely, juicy Jaffas. Here, do you want to feel them? They're beautiful. Oh, they're lovely. Well, he said, what are you charging for them? 3 shillings a dozen, sir. And he said, what's that in dollars? $20, sir. So not being very well up in the currency, he paid her the $20. If you believe that, you believe anything. But he went off with his bag of oranges, but when he opened them, he discovered he only got 11 oranges, and he came back and he said, pardon me, ma'am, but I guess we got a slight misunderstanding here, because I reckon even in Ireland, a dozen means 12. That's right, sir, you're quite right, a dozen, 12, that's very good, very, very accurate. Boy, have you got a problem? Well, he said, actually, I only got 11 oranges. That's right, so one of them was bad. I threw it away for you. And, of course, you'll find this kind of thing all over the place, even in the West, even in Galway, even among the most innocent in Galway, because There is a lot of innocence in Galway. Mind you, you have to look for it. You'll probably find oil first, but anyway. There were two girls coming out of a marriage guidance course in Galway, one of whom knew everything, and the other one knew nothing. And the one who knew nothing says to the one who knew everything, says, "Attractor, were you able to follow all this?" "Of course I was." "Why?" "Well," she said, "tell me, are you a virgin?" "Oh, no, not yet." And you'll find it, I suppose, in the Midlands, classic example of it. Midland people are often described as phlegmatic, which is another word for thick. And people say, they have a phrase in Athlone to describe someone who's very thick. They say he's as thick as the man from Coosan. Coosan is a little village on the edge of the town. And the phrase originated many years ago when a patient escaped from the mental home around Christmas time, and he was running around in the frost and the snow stark naked. And they had a posse looking for him, because even in that part of the world, that is considered unusual behaviour. And the local sergeant was leading the search party, and they met these two men from Coosan coming in, trudging into early mass with the collars up, or trudging through the snow and the frost. And the sergeant said, "Did you see anybody back the road, lads?" "Huh? No, we seen no one." And the second said, "What about your man was seen lying in the ditch?" "What? You saw somebody like we did?" "Yeah, about a mile back the road. Lying in the ditch, not a stitch on him. Same as the day he come into the world, he was." "And did you speak to him?" "I sure all I said was, 'Hardy man.'" And of course they hardly come much thicker than that. But it's the kind of thing you'll find everywhere. I mean, this would depend a lot on your knowledge of Irish drinks and so on, but there was a lady, an American journalist, she was doing a survey on racial attitudes in Ireland, and she went into this pub in Dundalk and she said, "I'm doing this survey on racial attitudes right here, and I have been told, and I would welcome your comment on this, that Dundalk people are very anti-Semitic." Said, "I don't think that's true. Wouldn't agree. It's not that they're anti-Semitic, they just prefer the taste of McArdles." And it is inevitable that when we come to this kind of thing, we have to visit the county of Cavan, which is the home of thrift and one-upmanship and keeping ahead of the posse and all that. And it has been said that if a spaceman were dropped into a Cavan farmer's kitchen, he'd know he was in Cavan, because there'll be poor man eating his dinner out of a drawer. And then when he'd see you coming, "Oh, hello there, how are you?" I asked a friend of mine in Cavan, because I have one, if he hasn't been deported, but I said, "I hope you don't mind me telling that story." "Not at all, no, far ahead. You're always welcome for to have a laugh at my expense. For it's the only thing you'll ever have at my expense." And the day I asked him, he was actually stripping wallpaper, and I said, "Oh, I see you're decorating." He said, "No, we're moving." The finest example of that goes back to the days, again, we're going back to prehistory practically, to the days before the introduction of artificial insemination. I mean, on farms. I mean, any bull will tell you that it was not a good idea. And if cows had the vote, they wouldn't have gone for it either. But in those days, this small farmer in that area hired a pedigree bull from the Department of Agriculture, and several days after the bull should have been brought back, there was no sign of it. So the inspector was sent out to find out what was going wrong, and he managed with great difficulty to locate the farm. And he had to climb over ditches and boulders and brambles and God knows what else. And he finally found himself in a rocky field, where to his horror he saw this pedigree bull, this premium bull that had cost all that money, yoked to a plough. And there was the farmer behind him, cracking a whip. Go along there, you bugger, you. I'll show you, me fine boyo, that there's more in life than romance. And this, unfortunately, is only true. But there's another man in that area who had a prize boar which did the necessary for the neighbour's sows, and the money went into his back pocket, and everybody was happy. Not the boar's back pocket, his own back pocket. And everybody was happy, and until the department found out about it again, the inspector was sent out to warn him, and he said, you'll have to register that boar. You have to take out the papers and pay the licence fees and charge according to the schedule of charges laid down by the department regulations for services of this nature. He said, all right, I don't want to have any more of that whole rubbish, I'll do it. So he went in and he paid all the licence fees, filled all the forms, and he came back with his licence. He was now, everything was above board according to Cocker. And there was one of the neighbours waiting with a sow. So he went to the sty and he led the old boar across the yard, and the boar promptly lay down on the ground and went fast asleep. Come on, get up. Get up and do your work, come on. Will you get up, you whore? Come on. So he turned to the neighbour and he says, well, good God, isn't that typical? He's a civil servant now, he doesn't want to do nothing. But then we move a little further south, of course. We're coming nearer to my own part of the world. We come to Cork. And one of the things that people don't understand about Cork, of course, is that it suffers from an inferiority complex. Amazing how nobody will ever believe that. But I don't mean in the Kerry sense, of course. A Kerry man with an inferiority complex is someone who thinks he's just as good as anybody else. But this is another matter altogether. It's a municipal frame of mind, and it arises when Cork compares itself to other places like Dublin, for instance, and notices certain deficiencies, such as the fact that Cork has no zoo of its own. Well, not one with railings around it, anyway. This deficiency was rectified when they opened the Wildlife Centre in Fota Island in Cork Harbour. Now, I should explain that a wildlife centre is not quite the same thing as a disco. I mean, I'm just clarifying terms because people do get confused. I mean, I have a friend who thinks that the contraceptive lobby is the foyer of the Burlington Hotel, but which it is. But I mean. This other thing was this wildlife centre in Cork Harbour had as its nucleus 3 polar bears. There was a mammy bear, a daddy bear, and a baby bear. And one day the baby bear came to his mother and he said, Mammy! Because they'd been in Cork a while at this stage. Said, Mammy! Am I a polar bear? She says, of course you are, love. Sure, what else would you be? You're not getting what? You're not getting a complex about it. No, I was just wondering. So later on he came to his father and he said, Daddy, am I really a polar bear? The father said, look, I have you and on your mother about that already. I'm fed up of it. Once and for all, get it into your head, you are a polar bear. That clear now? You are a polar bear. What do you want to know for, anyway? Because I'm f***ing frozen. A man went into a tobacconist's, and the tobacconist said, morning, can I help you? Said, you might be able to help me all right now because I have a problem. You see, every time I sneeze, you're an awful bitch. Every time I sneeze, I get very randy. He said, what are you coming into me for? Announce the snuff. And as you know, ma'am, it doesn't work. But anyway, another man was collecting unpaid bills for the Cork Examiner, and he called to this house and he said, morning, I'm doing, what do you want, what do you want? And he said, well, I'm from the Cork Examiner, actually, and I have a little bill for you. I'm sure you've overlooked it, but you do owe the Cork Examiner £2. I owe the Cork Examiner £2? For what? Well, he said it's for it's a little bill, actually. It's, let me see. Oh, yes, it's for an ad, you know, little classified ad. Yes, here we are. It's Lost and Strayed. It's for a missing brindle pup. Shag off already. That dog came home on his own. And there was a pub that I used to frequent in my distant youth for the simple reason that it opened at 7 a.m., which is a good time to start the day. It was a markets pub. And the scene there at that hour in the morning would be very quiet and very controlled and peaceful. And just a couple of old fellas there like to be counting the bubbles in the pint. Being very gracious and quiet. And one morning when there were two of them just there, enjoying themselves, the door opened and rather county kind of chap came in. Morning, hello there, lads. Can I have a little gin and tom, please? Yes. No ice lemon, no, but I'd like to use your phone, if I may. Thank you very much. Hello, is that you, George? This is Robbie here. I've very bad news, I'm afraid. I can't go hunting today. Oh, no, I'm fine. No, it's the mayor. Yes, unfortunately, yes, the mayor's fetlock trouble of some kind, yes. All right, God bless, bye-bye. Most unfortunate, isn't it? Yes, most unfortunate. All right, God bless, bye-bye. And he hung up. And the two outlaws have been listening to this. Who's your man? I don't know. You don't drink here at all, anyhow. Are you going hunting today? What? Are you going hunting today? Oh, no, I can't. Most unfortunate. Most unfortunate, I can't. The ferret have the flu. go a little further west and we get to Kerry. Now, when you get to Kerry, of course, there's another ingredient that enters into all this equation, and that is a great reluctance to offend, a great willingness to see the other man's point of view and to help him out of his dilemma, if he's in a dilemma, and if not, to put him in one. But like the man who was drinking after hours in a pub in Listowel, and the guards raided the place, so he ran upstairs and he hid in one of the beds in the bedrooms. And when the sergeant went upstairs to investigate, he saw this figure in the bed. He went over, he whipped the blankets off the bed and he said, "What the hell do you think you're doing there? With your good suit on you? And your boots on you in bed?" Yes, I don't know. Guilty but insane, I suppose. Now, the man was doing a crossword in Tralee. He called his neighbour. He said, "Make there's a four-letter word here." He said, "I want no four-letter words, or you know, that kind of filth." "No, it's in the crossword. A four-letter word. Old MacDonald had a dash, full stop." "Farm, of course you eat it. Old MacDonald had a farm." "Oh, yeah. How do you spell it?" E-I-E-I-O. There was a teacher in that part of the world who had two little boys in his class from the same family, so we will assume that they were brothers. And what puzzled him about them was that they never arrived at school together. One was always 5 or 6 minutes later than the other. And one day, when one of them almost made it in time, he said, "Oh, my God, you nearly made it. You're only 5 minutes late. Nevertheless, you are late. What kept you?" "I was having my breakfast." "I see. And what did you have for your breakfast?" "I had a boiled egg." "Oh, all right, sit down." 5 minutes later, his brother arrived. He said, "Oh, the whole family's here now. Very kind of you, Scarlett. Very kind of you to turn up. You're late. What kept you?" I was having my breakfast." "And what did you have for your breakfast?" "I had a boiled egg." "Said your brother had a boiled egg. He could be here 5 minutes ago." "Had I a spoon? Had I?" And, of course, they are very mechanically minded in that part of the world. The man on his way into the garage, and his neighbour called him. He said, "You're going into the garage?" He said, "I am." He said, would you do me a favour?" He said, "Would you ever ask him if by any chance they would have such a thing as a cylinder head gasket?" Will you try and remember this now? Because it's very important. Would they have a cylinder head gasket for a blue van? He was giving a neighbour a lift home in the blue van one evening. And he took a corner very sharp. "You nearly killed us." He said, "You were going to drive like that. The least you could do was blow the horn before I got around the corner." "What are you talking about? I often blew it before. There was never anyone there." "Well," he said, "the way you're driving is a disgrace." He said, "You're a menace to society. You shouldn't be allowed out on the road." He said, "You're tearing the arse out of the engine." He said, "He said that no piece of machinery could put up with that." He said, "Don't you worry about this old jalopy at all. Don't you worry at all. By 12 years I have her on the road now, never an ounce of trouble." And do she but Niall? She would if she got it. We are, of course, one of my own favourite stories of that region, I suppose, was the sergeant who was going around checking on dog licenses. This was in the days before recent troubles and so on. Very little to trouble them except radio licenses and dog licenses and that sort of thing. And he was checking on dog licenses, and this farmer spotted him, so he ran into the wife and he said, Mara, where's the dog? Where's the dog?" She said, what's the matter with you? She was sitting in front of the firehouse herself with the old-fashioned flowing black skirt and the crocheted shawl and that, and she was knitting away peacefully. And he said, the bloody sergeant going around, he said, you looking for dog licenses? Shall we have no dog license? She said, well, look, take it easy, calm yourself down. She said, the dog is over there behind the settle, bring him over here to me. So he brought the dog over and she put the dog under her skirt, she held it between her ankles, and she went on then calmly knitting, unaware that the dog's tail was now sticking out under her shoe and wagging away there, you see, merrily. When the sergeant came to the door, she said, oh, Sergeant, God knows we haven't seen you in an age. How are you? How's herself? We're not in any trouble, are we? Said, no, not at all, no, I just want to have a look at your dog licence. What dog licence? What the hell will we want a dog licence for? Should we have no dog? I could have sworn you had a dog. No, we have no dog. We never had a dog. Never had a dog. We never even had a pup. Well, ma'am, I have news for you. You're going to have one very shortly. And to finish up our little tour of Kerry, we have my own favourite story of that region. The man who was being shown around the lakes and the mountains by the guide. And he said, do you see that mountain over there now? That now is Cavan. That now is the highest mountain in Ireland. As a matter of fact, it's the highest mountain in Kerry. It's 3,414 feet high. And the Americans said, well, I don't doubt what you say, but that one over there looks higher to me. Well, no, Cavan was always the highest. Well, up to last week it was anyway, like. I mean, I know we did a lot of rain, but Jesus wouldn't have washed the top off it. And now you go to the guards now, or the teachers, or anyone, they'll all give you the same story. Cavan is the highest mountain in Ireland. No question about that at all. Statistically speaking, or any other. No, he said, I don't doubt that. I merely say that that one looks higher to me. God, I never noticed that before. Because you see, the snag about Cavan it's just kind of down in a hollow. Well, to get you out of your mystification, the motivational force really is a sense of place, because Irish people are obsessed with the sense of place. The first question any Irishman will ask you if he meets you in Honolulu or Hong Kong or Camden Town, once he knows you're Irish, is, what county man are you? Because he feels if he knows where you're from, he knows what you're like. Now, this is a completely unsustainable generalization, but some people suffer from it more than others. I suppose the greatest victims are the unfortunate natives of the county of Cavan. Mainly because of me, let it be said. But, and I would like to thank the people of Cavan here and now for affording me and my family a good living over many years. But they do have the reputation of being somewhat ungenerous, as in the aforementioned phrase, main Cavan bastards. But this is, it's not for me to say whether this is a deserved reputation or not, although I do. But I will give you a couple of examples of what it is that gives them this reputation. There was a man went into Cavan Town on the market day, and he was in there in the square. Well, it's not a square anymore, actually. It's a triangle. Because they refuse to pay the rates on the fourth side. But he was browsing around among the stalls there, and he found this knick-knack stall, and he picked up a pair of spectacles, a pair of second-hand glasses, and he put them on. But God, he said, them is powerful specs. God, if you see a towel with them, they're great. So he said to the man, he said, how much are they? He said, oh, they're very good value. They're only 40p. Oh, my God, that's great. Oh, it's 40p. Is that for the two now? My God, they're good value like that. I'll take them. So he went home to the missus and he said, hey, what do you think of me? I said, I told you that years ago. No, but what do you think of me when it says, oh, because you got new specs, and they suit you very well. They look great on you. They make you very intelligent looking. You look like Alan Dukes if you were 4 feet taller. And had a fag hanging out your mouth. They suit you very well. But she said, take them off now and don't be wasting them looking at unimportant things. Another man was unlucky enough to have lost the job, and he was outside one of the hotels there doing a bit of discreet begging, and he approached this businessman and he said, you know, the job is gone, things is bad and that, like, there's a chance you could give us a few shillings, you know, but do it cute, you know, don't let everybody know our business, like, and don't let anyone see you, slipping me a pound, you know. Oh, you needn't worry. No one will see me. So he threw a blank there, and got the next man on his way in. He explained the story again. He said, oh, yes, unfortunately I don't have any money on me, but will you be here tomorrow? Because oh, of course I will. So I'll be here all day, every day, nothing else to do. Oh, well, in that case I'll see you tomorrow. Is that all right? Yes, I suppose it'll have to be, but geez, I hate giving credit. Another man had, he went into a pub and he ordered a wee black bush, and they gave him the black bush. He called the barman back. He said, hey, come here. I ordered the black bush. I didn't order what's in it. I said, what do you mean? I didn't order the wasp. If I want a wasp, I'll order a wasp. But I didn't order it. Do you want me to take the wasp out of it? Is that what you're trying to say? Of course it's that. You don't expect me to take the wasp out of it. So the barman has a go, and a big elastoplast on the thumb now. Well, he has a dive into the half on. He manages to harpoon the wasp. Takes him out and has a look at him. He turns to him and he says, yes, for all I would have drunk on you. Other people, of course, also get reputations. Cork people are allegedly very cute, which may explain why I'm up here and you're not. But there was a man came up from Cork for the All-Ireland final. I won't say what year it was because I don't want to dwell on recent unhappy events, but he went for a meal out. He had his little boy with him, about 6 years old, because he brought him up so that he would know his way around in later life. And they went for a meal, and they were joined at the table by a stranger. And, I mean, he was a stranger to them. I mean, he wasn't a stranger in Dublin because he was a Dublin man. But the point is, anyway, he came, he sat by them, and boy looked at him for a long time and finally said, excuse me, sir? Are you from Cork? He got a kick under the table from his father when he came out. He said, what was all that about? You nearly broke me feckin' shin. I only asked the man a question. He said, that was a very rude thing you done in there. Very rude. Most unmannerly. You should never ask anybody if he's from Cork. Because if he is, he'll tell you anyway. And if he's not, you shouldn't be embarrassing him. So, who's winning? But anyway, another person, an old lady in Cork, around Christmas time, she was sending off various postcards and that to her daughters in America, all 15 of them. And they were illegal, not illegitimate, but they were illegal. And she put her handbag on the counter. When she turned around, the handbag was gone. And she said, oh, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, what am I going to do? My handbag is gone. There was £100 in it. I have no money for Christmas. Oh, what am I going to do? And she all alone so much that she attracted the attention of one of the ladies behind the counter, which was an achievement in itself. And the lady came to her and she said, "Well, what's the matter? You seem to be very distressed." "Why wouldn't I be? Somebody's after fecking me handbag. There was £100 that I no money for Christmas. Oh my God, you know, she said, no, don't start again, don't get too distressed, because she said, I can tell you something now. If you have faith, if you believe in the power of prayer, you can get your money back. In fact, if you believe, you could even write to Almighty God and ask him to send you back your money, and you will get a reply in some shape or form." "How could I write to God? What are you talking about? Anyway, that's the Anthony's job anyway, get money back." No, she said, if you believe, you could scribble a little note to God, put it in an envelope, address it to him, and put it into the letterbox, and if you believe, you will get a reply. Well, she said, I suppose I've nothing to lose anyway, so she wrote a little note. "Dear God, someone is after fecking me handbag. There was £100 that I have no money for Christmas. I would be very grateful if I could have it back by the 24th inst. And oblige, yours sincerely, Hannah Moriarty." And she addressed the envelope to God and she threw it in the letterbox. And that evening, when they were sorting the mail, one of the sorters found this letter addressed to God. And being a Cork man, he opened it. And he read it out to his mates and he said, "Oh God, isn't that very funny? Oh, that's very sad. That's very sad. That poor unfortunate woman, look, £100 gone. No, we'll have to do something. We'll have to do something. So we'll have a whip around." They had a whip around and they managed to raise £80, which was a great help anyway. He put this in an envelope and on his way home he threw it into the old lady's letterbox. And she found this in the morning and she was in the seventh heaven. She ran into the post office to tell the other woman. She said, "Come here, I want to tell you, I want to thank you. I done what you told me. I wrote to God, and you know, you won't believe this, but this morning, by special delivery from the man above, I got £80 of me money back. Isn't that wonderful? I can't tell you." She said, "Just a minute now, you got £80 back. But I thought you lost 100. Didn't you ask for your 100 back?" "I did, but you know them thieving bastards in the post office." Other people, of course, are even cuter, if that were possible. And you can guess where they are. In Kerry. And I would have to concur with the verdict that they are cute whores. But anyway, I admire Kerry people tremendously because I'm half Kerry myself. I won't tell you which half. But anyway, I admire their great ability to make a little go a long way. Because, for instance, even in the racing game they get away with it. They have 3 of the most prestigious race meetings in Ireland, in Killarney, Listowel and Tralee, despite the fact that in the entire kingdom of Kerry there is nobody who trains horses, nobody who breeds horses. There are no jockeys living there. Well, not ones that ride horses anyway. And yet they have these 3 prestigious race meetings, and they also have the biggest and the best of all beauty contests. The Rose of Tralee, and there isn't a decent-looking bird in Tralee. So, see, they really get away with murder. But one man that I admired immensely was a man in Tralee who used to race greyhounds. I don't mean that he ran against greyhounds. He to actually enter them for races. And he saw an ad in the trade paper for a litter of champion pups. And the going rate at the time was £50 per pup. So he sent £50 to the man in Dublin who was selling the pups. And when he was sending on the pup, he went up to Euston Station, and just as he was putting in the basket with the pup in it, he had a last check. He looked in, and to his horror, he saw that the pup was dead. He said, "Oh, my Jesus, what am I going to do now? I'm after drinking the bleeding money. I'll send it on him. I sure he mightn't know. He would. He'd know the difference on him. But he blames the yeae. He'll think of doing on the train. I'll chance it anyway." So he sent on the pup. And to his astonishment, he got no sort of whiz-bang of any description. There was no phone call, no telegram, nothing. No reaction whatever. And he was so intrigued by this that the next time he was in the Kerry area, he called to see this man. He walked into him and he said, "Hello there. How's it going?" "Who have I?" How's the pup doing? Oh, you're the man that sent the pup. Hello. Well. I tell you next time I think now about that pup. He said, didn't that pup arrive dead? And I was a bit taken aback, like, I mean, I know you're a Dublin man, but jeez, you wouldn't be that big a crook, like, to send me a dead pup through the post, I mean. And then, like, I was thinking maybe like that to die on the term that I should sue yeae, like, but sure, I'd be dead myself before I'd get hitting out of them. And then I was a bit embarrassed too, you see, because, like, I was boasting a lot about it in the pub. You know the way you'd be blowing your coal about getting this new pup and so on, like, and I knew there'd be an awful lot of questions. So I said to a man in the station, I said, hang on to that. I'll be back for that tomorrow morning, no, just hang on to that. And I had to think it out, you see. I went back to the pub anyway, and there were all questions, all the golf. Where's the pup? Where's the famous? I said he didn't come. He's not coming till tomorrow. He went on the train. And I'm just as pleased anyway, because I'm getting a bit too old for all that greyhound stuff, you know. I think when that pup arrives that I'll sell it. Of course, who would I sell it to? Who'd be able to afford it around here? Still, I suppose we could raffle it. So to cut a long story short then here, I raffled the pup. I sold 50 tickets at £2 a skull. And one flew on it and I said, go up in the morning and collect your pup. Well, I was in the middle of my breakfast the following morning. He came tearing into me. Come here to me, he says. That pup was dead. Oh, Christ, says I am very sorry. And I gave him back his £2 and everyone was happy. But, I don't always get away with it. This is a historic story, in fact. It goes back to the time of the French Revolution. There were 3 men arrested in Paris, and they were charged with counter-revolutionary activities. There were an Englishman, a Scotsman, and a Kerry man. Kerry, for the purposes of this story, being an independent state, to the great relief of everybody else. But anyway, they were charged and they were sentenced to death. And on the morning of the executioner came to them and he said, Messieurs, I have to inform you that according to the laws of revolutionary France, you are entitled to a choice in the manner of your death. You may elect to die bravely with your throat to the blade of the guillotine like this, or like a coward with your neck to the blade like this, he said. Which do you choose, monsieur? He said to the Englishman. He said, oh, I think I can take it on the chin, old boy. Let's get it over with. Messy old job you've got, isn't it? Well, lack of education, I suppose. Anyway, so he put his head on the block and they pulled the lever, down came the blade. Brrr, it stopped a foot from the Englishman's throat, and the executioner said, Monsieur, when this occurs, we regard it as an intervention of divine providence. Consequently, you are free to go. So he said, oh, thank you very much, awfully kind of you. Have a nice day, chaps. Bye-bye, and off he went. And then he called the Scot, and he said, how do you choose to die, monsieur? He said, I'm as brave as any bloody Englishman. I can take it on the chin just as good as any Swissner. All right, come on, let's get over it. Let's stop flapping a bit. Come on, here we go, here we go, here we go. So they pulled the lever, down came the blade, brrr, it stopped the foot from the Scotsman's throat. And once more the executioner said, Monsieur, once more divine providence has intervened, you are free to go. And he went off, and then he called the Kerryman and he said, how do you elect to die, Monsieur? I can take it on the chin just as good as he. On the schmig, or on the nose, or on the forehead, all the one to me. What difference does it make? I won't be around much longer anyway. The main thing is that you have a job to do. And you should be comfortable and happy, you know. Is that angle all right for you? Fair enough, though. Flake away whenever you like. Hold it, stop. I think I see what's making it stick. Other people, of course, think they know what makes us tick as well. Like, there was an English actor being interviewed by Gay Byrne one night, and he described what he thought was an awfully funny thing that happened to him in Dublin. So I was in this hotel, I was having a shower, I suppose about 4:30 in the afternoon. because that apparently is when they wash themselves. And he said, the knock on the door was one of the porter chaps. And I said, yes, what is it? And he said, I have a telegram for you, sir, he said in this marvellous Irish brogue. And I said, well, it's a bit awkward, I'm in the shower. Can't you slip it under the door? And he said, I can't. It's on a tray. Which she found very amusing, as indeed it is. But what he really needed was a translation, because when the porter said, I can't, it's on a tray, what he meant was, I will in me arse and go without me tip. Some of you may recall a film that I was involved in some years back called Murphy's Stroke, which concerned a betting coup carried out by some Cork people, indeed some Irish people involved as well. But they got this horse called Gay Future, which they ran in an obscure track in the north of England, and they stood to win £330,000 of the London bookies' money. And they were only, in fact, prevented from collecting this money by a technicality. They were in jail. But they did manage to prove that it could be done, and they offended the sensibilities of the racing fraternity in England to the extent that some of them decided they would have their revenge. And they got together and they got a horse, and they decided they would pull a little stroke in Ireland, a little coup. And they came over with the horse in fairly decent condition, and then they had to find, this was the most difficult part of their entire enterprise, they had to find somewhere in Ireland a bent jockey. This is not a sexual allusion, it is a racing term. But anyway, they searched high up and low down they found one. Found him in Waterford, actually. And they said, we have this horse and we want you to sort of ride him in this race. We've entered him in a 5-horse race, but obviously we don't want you to win because they would tip our hand and we have bigger plans for later on and all that. And he said, oh, I know what you mean, yeah, I know what you want, because I've done this kind of work before. I come very highly recommended, you know. They said, yes, yes. So anyway, they said, if you brought him in third of the 5, that would be all right. So he did what he was told, and they were having a little discussion now. They said, how do you feel? He went, oh, he's a great horse. He's a great horse. Christ, he's a great bit of stuff. Oh, Christ, he's a great bit of stuff. So he nearly pulled the arms out of me. You know, see, my wrist was nearly pulled out of me. I was going around there, he's a marvellous horse. Wonderful piece of, wonderful. And you feel he could have won? Of course he could have won. So I was holding him back the whole way around. I was holding him back. I couldn't. And they say, you feel he could have beaten the other 2 horses in front? Of course he could. You beat the shite out of me. You're joking me. He'd have won them into the ground and no problem whatsoever. The only trouble is I'm not too sure that he'd beat the 2 behind me. So now you know what makes us tick. But I want to get on to the subject of sport in its very general sense. One of my own favourite sporting stories of all time was when Donegal won the Ulster title in Gaelic football for the first time and hoped to go on to win the All-Ireland, hopes which were to be dashed. But anyway, one of the Donegal players was in Kerry on holidays in the intervening time, and he found himself in Dingle. And there he was looking around, and he saw this pub with the name Paddy Bourne Brosnan over the door. And he said, oh my God, he said, Paddy Bourne Brosnan. Oh, I used to hear my old fella talking about him. One of the greats, and he went, Paddy, I want to shake your hand. God, when I think of it, the number of times you're up there in Crook Park, now, howling the Sam Maguire Cup of... Oh, God, what a thrill it must have been for him. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You don't hold the Sam Maguire Cup up like that. You hold it up like that, you get a good grasp for one lug of it with your left hand. And you have to keep your right hand free to shake hands with the Queen. So what are you talking about, Paddy? We haven't got a Queen, by Jez. We will have by the time you win the All-Ireland. There are other sports, I suppose, we shouldn't even mention. There was a man of my own age, disposition, background, tastes, whatever you like. Anyway, he decided to go to London. He was from Cork, and he decided to go to London for a dirty weekend. before it was all gone, like. And he went into this pub. Needless to say, the barman was Irish, but as he approached the bar, he saw this lady sitting on her own, very attractive-looking girl. And he said, I fancy her now, very nice. So he went up to the bar and he said, I'll have a pint of bitter, and I think the lady's having a gin and tonic, is that right? And the man said, listen, also, I want to mark your card to you. She's bad news. You know what I mean? Keep clear of her. No, he said, I just want to get her a gin and tonic. Well, he said, I put my cards on the table. She is a lesbian. He said, I don't worry about things like that, for heaven's sake. Come on, give me the drink. So he took the pint and took the gin and tonic, went over, put it in front of the girl and said, well, my dear, and how are they all in lesbia? So there is no prejudice where I come from. But one of the sports I want to talk about is golf. Now, golf is not a game that has been played all that long by the plain people of Ireland, and it causes a great deal of distress, domestic upsets and that. One woman in Dublin for many years was a golf widow, and when her husband finally passed on, strangely enough, she began to miss him. And she decided she would like to get in touch with him again, so she went to the spiritualists and she asked, was there any possibility that they could do the needful? And they said, well, it could be very harrowing. And they said, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'd like to get in touch with him, because I seen very little of him when he was alive, you know. So I was out playing golf, you know what I mean? And they said, well, all right. So they did the necessary and they tapped the tables and joined hands, and then they said, we've made contact, Mrs. Jones, we've made contact. So then she didn't know how to start the conversation. She said, can you hear me, Bill? She said, oh, yeah, great reception today, very clear. And she said, well, tell me, what do you do all day, you know, where you are? I said, oh, well, I wake up in the morning and have a bit of sex, like. And then I might have something to eat, and then out on the course. A couple of hours going around the course, and maybe more sex. And lunchtime I come, like, have a nibble, and I might have something to eat as well, and then... back out on the course for another couple of hours, and maybe more sex. And then, of course, coming towards dusk, there'd be an awful lot more sex. And she said, Bill, I hate to interrupt you having a good time and all that, she said, but are you in heaven? I said, no, I'm a rabbit in Portmarnock. See, one of the things about, in recent times anyway, I have to explain this is the educational aspect of the programme again. There's a certain phrase that is used in Cork, or a term which is used, the word langers, which describes a state to which most of you are aspiring, and indeed those of you who have arrived, congratulations. It means being pissed, or on the way to getting a little tipsy or one. And this word langers has become part of the common parlance of the country, and quite acceptable even in sort of fairly civilized or polite society. But the singular of this word langers is not quite so acceptable. In fact, it is regarded as rather a crude expression, because the word langer describes, shall we say, a portion of the male anatomy, and any man is only entitled to have one. And if he has more than one, he's on his way to being a millionaire. But anyway, it does describe this portion of the anatomy, and I don't want to dwell on it, but except to state that it provides tremendous value to people in Cork who listen to golf commentaries, because there's a German golfer named Bernhard Langer, and when they listen in Cork to golf commentaries and they hear about Langers this and Langer that and Langer the other, you see, it has a double meaning which increases the enjoyment of the commentary. But this is even more enjoyable in a way, and a bit puzzling when you get American commentators and the same golfer is involved, as say in the Ryder Cup, and the Americans insist on calling him not Langer, but Longer. And I think there's a Freudian reason here why so many young Corkmen emigrate to the United States. Because if when you get there your langer becomes longer, well, it is an added attraction, you must admit. How's Charlie? How are you going to get out of that one, I tell you? But anyway, that's beside the point. We want to get back to to golf again, and as I say, it's not a game that has been played all that long by the plain people of Ireland, and in fact, it's within living memory that a man of my own sort of kind, decent, honest, hard-working, plain, ordinary Joe Soap managed to get into a golf club in Cork, and there he was one day having a practice round on his own because no one else would talk to him. And there he was, scuttling balls up into trees, out over ditches, railway lines, duck ponds, hen houses, telegraph poles, everywhere about the fairway. And one of the members happened to spot him. And he came over and he said, I see you're having your little problems. Don't worry about that at all. That's a phase we all go through. And I said, I was watching you now very carefully, and your stance is absolutely perfect, and your swing is copybook. And watching you, I've come to the conclusion that your main problem is the ball. The ball, oh yeah. Never thought of that. No, I'm perfectly serious, because you see, I dabble a bit in psychology. I'm a bit of a psychologist, and it's all psychological, it's all up there, it's all in the mind. And what I find very therapeutic? Very well? Well, very helpful, if you like. I find it's great therapy to play a few holes without any balls. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, to be cheap, but all right, No, I'm perfectly serious, because it's all therapeutic, you see. And I'll demonstrate my point, We'll play the next couple of holes together without any balls. Now, first of all, I take my ball. Of course, I don't have any ball. Oh, I know that, you have no ball. You have no ball, but you're going to put it down and hit it, psychologically. Yeah, well, you get the idea, yes. Now, and you'll keep an eye on it. What? Oh, yeah, feel no. Okay, no. Here we go. Look at that for a tee shot. Bisecting the fairway. You thought I did. Here's a great shot. Marvelous shot. Now, let's see what you can do. Oh, if you're excuse me, the old underpants gets salty. Well, it's all right, I suppose. It's a worker anyway. By God, it's running on there, bobbling along nicely. We're like two peas in a pod up there in the middle of the fairway. We go up now and we play our second shot. And I want you to keep an eye on this, because I have a feeling I'm going to drop this right in the heart of the green, all right? You keep an eye. Oh, I will, yeah. Now, here we go. Woohoo! Look at the trajectory. Heart of the green, what did I tell you? Running towards the pin. It's in the hole! You saw it, I did. Here's a great shot. A marvelous shot. Now, for pity, do I have to tell you this, but you lose the hole. Well, how do you make that out? That was my fucking ball, you head. And as we reach the end of what might be called our tether, I want to tell you one thing. I've always had a secret ambition to be a country and western singer. Now, unfortunately, there are little problems. First of all, I can't sing. But that never stopped anybody else. There are other problems. There's the question of the accent in which country and western songs should be sung in this country. Well, if you're asking around Castleblaney for a couple of hours, you might get that. You pick it up, maybe. It's the only thing you would pick up. But anyhow, or if you were to stand at the four roads to Glenamardy, you get a cold in your ass in this weather. But even all these things can be overcome because, they're all making comebacks now. Even Larry Cunningham is back on the road because he qualifies for the free travel now. And but my main problem My main problem was the song that I wanted to sing, which is a song called Gentle on My Mind. Now, this is a very difficult song to learn because the lines vary in length as between one verse and the next, mainly because Dean Martin was pissed when he made the record. But it doesn't help when you want to put it together. And I want to give you my version of it, which I had to make because I couldn't get around to the other one. Gentle on my mind. It's knowing that you knew, I must have guessed, you realized I knew that you were now a liberated woman. With feelings and opinions far more complex than the gentle hand of nature had designed. And that has caused me to feck off about the universe, just versifying and portrifying and strumming. 'Cause I knew as sure as eggs is eggs, I have it for a fact, I'm told you have another gent upon your mind. Now I've been around the world and I declare to God, the travelling was ferocious. Be every class of carriage and contraption that the wit of man designed, and the rake of beer, the rear up, and the women, and the crack was only odious. But sleeping in the backwoods, I could never get your memory, nor the streets of Talmon fecking off me mind. Now I could sing a song of love, expressing my affection in a manner that would have you running with me to the parson. If I could only recollect with some exactitude how many syllables in each line. But it's knowing that I'll never find a hook to hang me hat on, nor a chair to plank me arse on. That's left me on me backside with the bitterest of memories, and the splinters of this fence up me behind. Thank you. The thing about this is that this game, this profession, this trade, whatever you call it, of going around and doing shows in different parts of the country is that you become the recipient of unsolicited contributions with a view to extending your repertoire. And I have several examples of this. My own favourite one is the approach is usually the same. Come here, I have a great one for you. Mind you, it's a bit on the dirty side, like, but you'll be able to clean it up. I don't know where that comes from, but anyway, they get this impression. And one man in Tralee, or in the stall, actually, my own favourite example is, Christ, I have a great one for you now. And you're out to the bit on the blue side, like, but you'd have no trouble cleaning it up, like. And the great thing about this, that is a true story. Like, it's absolutely true, because it happened, actually, to a cousin of my own. He was a relation of mine, actually. And for years, went he over in England, and he was working on the building. Why was that for years? And didn't he have to emigrate? And where did he head for? Only over to Canada. And I don't know what part of Canada, Wisconsin or Ohio or maybe Milwaukee. Anyway, some part of Canada. No, it was Vancouver or, anyway, Ontario, I think. But anyway, his very first day, anyway, he walks into this public and the bar, and there was this Canadian, he up at the bar with the belly stuck out and the big glass in his hand, and he boasting and bragging and bullshitting out of him 19 to the dozen. And you'll see, old man took no notice, but he spotted my man coming in, and he said, we got a Paddy here. Poet, they are all poets, right, Pat? And whatever you say yourself, he said, you're no wrong country, nothing to do with me, I'm not interfering with you one way or the other. When he said, you are a poet, and he said, you're descended from kings. They were all descended from kings. And he said, I want you to listen, because he said, I'm a bit of a poet myself, and I want to recite a little patriotic poem, and I would like you to respond in kind. Yeah, fair enough, you know the way they go on. I mean, they're all as bad as the Yanks, only they don't polish their shoes as often, but... There he was, anyway, and he said, I listened to you, so the The Canadian fellow picked up the glass and he said, "Here's to the bald-headed eagle of Canada. Ever free through our sky may he soar. He will guard and defend our freedom from the east to the western shore." He said, "Can you match that?" I said, "I can try." Said, "Here's to the wolfhound of Erin that guards both the rich and the poor. Fuck you and your bald-headed eagle, you cross-eyed Canadian whore." And if anybody can clean that up, I'll buy it off him. Good night, God bless you all, safe home. Thank you very much.